Hello everybody, DCS Sport here. The other day I was flying the MiG-21 on the Cold War server in DCS multiplayer, and I had this engagement which I thought was pretty interesting that I wanted to share with everybody. Essentially the lesson learned from it was how important it is to maintain your energy in a dogfight, and use a little bit of patience to turn a defensive position into a victory. By no means am I proficient at flying the MiG-21. I'm not. I have very little time in it, and I'm still learning it. But this turned out pretty well. The other disclaimer I want to point out is that I was flying in VR at the time, and my head occasionally would clip outside of the canopy as I'm twisting around in my seat to try to get eyes on the adversary. This was an unintentional, and if I noticed it, I'd immediately pull my head back in, so I was fighting fairly and within the limits of the aircraft. Hopefully someday DCS implement a canopy restriction like IL-2 has. But sort of to introduce the entire scene here, as you can see, I'm up here in MiG-21 doing 580 knots coming down this this valley into this mountainous bowl area. Got my wingman Dut in about a half to 1 mile trail position, and AWACS is vectoring us in towards Alpha. We don't know exactly where he is, but we know we're within about 7 kilometers of him. He's doing about 365 knots, but as you'll see in the TAC view here, he's able to get a lot of airspeed, and by the time we really merge and see each other, we're at a pretty even energy state, and he's already got his nose on me. So, yeah, so here we go. We're coming down the valley, and we get the merged call. Immediately, I crank into a right-hand turn, and I start looking behind me to try to spot this guy. Switching to TAC view here, as you can see, he's passing through 410 knots. He's got his nose on me. He sees me. I'm not sure he sees Dut, but he's cranking. He's moving real fast, and he's trying to get his nose on me as quick as he can. So right about here, Dut calls visual on the enemy, on the bandit, and I was able to snap my head around and get eyes on him right about here. So I start pulling, and I'm just trying to get my tail away from his nose. And if we look in TAC view here, we can see that I'm doing 460 knots, but I'm only pulling about 13 degrees of AOA. Alpha here has already bled off about 100 knots of airspeed. He's pulling almost 25 degrees of AOA. His nose is way up, and he's trying really hard to slot into my tail here. And you can see how this is going to, probably already see how this is going to play out, but this puts him at a pretty big disadvantage. I'm converting some of my extra energy in altitude. I drop my tank, and I'm just trying to get my nose around, dipping down to about 308 knots. But as you can see, Alpha has pulled so hard, and he's continuing to pull hard, and he's down to about 185 knots. And at this point, his rate of turn is actually going down. The radius of his turn is really small. As you can see, he's able to turn inside of me, but his rate of turn is very, very low. I get my nose back down, I'm getting airspeed back, but I'm not pulling any more than, I don't know, 11, 12, or the occasional 13 degrees of AOA, and I've got almost a 200 knot energy advantage on him. And I'm able to control this fight at this point. I'm able to get my tail away from him, and I'm just trying to be patient and let the fight come to me, because I know he's slow. So we're in our third turn of the fight at this point. I think he knows he's lost. And something interesting happens here. I come behind this mountain, and I lose sight of him. I don't know where he is. So I keep my turn going, and I'm looking to where I think he should be, because I'm assuming he's going to continue his right-hand turn, when in fact, he decided to bail out and try to escape down this other valley. When I don't see him reemerge from behind the mountain, I realize something's up, and this is sort of reinforced by the fact that my R60s pick up a heat source in front of me. So I immediately roll over, and I'm looking for him, and I see a little blue speck going down the valley. At this point, I've got a pretty decent overtake on him. I fire off a Fox 2, which scores a hit, and then a second one as a follow-up just to confirm the kill. my big takeaway from this whole thing was that uh, it was one of the first engagements I've had in a long time where I was truly patient with my energy, with the amount of pull I had, and was able to turn a pure defensive position and actually come out with a victory without slamming on the brakes, doing some extreme maneuvers to try to get the guy to overshoot and getting a lucky shot off. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any suggestions or feedback, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I really learned a lot from this engagement, and especially going back, looking at it in TAC view and sort of analyzing it. And I hope that it's going to make me a better pilot in the future, and I hope you can take some lessons from it as well. I'll see you guys for the next one.